most apps lose their users even before they finish the onboarding, and my app is no different. So I decided to study what I think is the top 3 apps in the indie hacking space: Live Reset, Liftoff, and CalAI. In this video, I'll break down the things that they're all doing great, things that I'm implementing into Liftvault, and maybe some other tips that you can implement into your own application. I'm gonna start with my favorite, which was Live Reset. It was a great onboarding experience. This was the most similar idea that I could find on the internet for Happify, the previous first app that I used to have that I never launched to market. And I have to say, these guys executed the app way better. If you don't follow the founder, I follow him on X, and he posts really good things about indie hacking and how to grow your app. But I wanted to study his application, and I ended up being really surprised. First thing that I noticed was that he also opened it with a video. I really like that because if you can crack a really good first short form content video, it ends up being really engaging from the get-go. You can just slide down that sign up or create the account part. And I really like how I can just focus on the video. I was a bit shocked that this also happened to me when I implemented it on Happify. It was harder for me to get the proportions and the resolution of the application well, because the sizes of the iPhones is not so different than when you have Android, but it is different. So I don't know if this is just a mistake or something that he doesn't really pay attention as long as you can see the video and the subtitles, so who knows. Okay, I really like how that app was starting to glow at the end, and I noticed that that's something that the app itself, like with the UI, does quite a lot. Something also that I noticed is that it had a lot of animations. Even like they're very subtle, but they're good animations that they keep you engaged. The text doesn't just show up with the moment that you navigate into a screen. It's more that they vibrate into it. And you can see over here when I'm filling the answers, how the glow up happens on the top of it. It's not simply just like, oh, I'm just answering some boring questions and that's it. The glow up that it has on the buttons, it's amazing, I think. The haptic, that the options on when you're selecting things or when you're sliding things, it's really good. Over here, I feel like it was grounding me into how I'm supposed to feel before I start answering the actual questions of the app. Yeah, you see, so over here it starts, these questions were a bit more introspective, and I think that they did it with the intention of how they want the user to feel before they actually start the important questions. And just in the middle of it, in case I was getting bored, they also added some social proof and also some like, oh wow, this is how I'm going to feel in 66 days. So it's going to be a no-brainer for me to fulfill this onboarding process. This slide of how many hours a week do you waste on distractions, it was so good. The sliding, when you have the haptic feedback with the vibration, it was really good. I have to say, this potential return of Live Reset was a great implementation, because it's a very visual representation of how much money you're saving by getting shit done by using the application. I thought it was a great idea and something that I want to steal for Liftvault. This one, I am also planning to steal the scientific research part, because I thought it was so smart that you include things to make it scientifically backed. Even though I'm assuming that the majority of people won't check it out, it's a really good, oh wow, this is not just a random application, these guys built this based on science. It was also smart that he did 2 screens, or they did 2 screens, and one of them was using Atomic Habits, which is pretty much the gold standard for productivity and building habits. Over here we have another screen that is also about getting testimonials, but not simply a testimonial, but more something that you can see the whole process of how the users improve with the application. And then we have another social proof. Like, I'm beginning to notice a pattern that every couple of screens I start to see some social proof. This part about setting up the 8 core habits that the application sells you, it was really good. I really like how they made me stay in the same application, but at the same time we were setting up everything, because I think that the navigation was getting a bit too overwhelming. So I think it was a great design idea, and it gave me a lot of ideas for something that I'm going to implement with the Liftvault that I'll say at the end of the video. What? I never really wanted, I think that these guys are just implementing some screen screen reducing time thing where they're not allowing the users to do certain things on their application because they know that there's a market for it, but it's not really the core of their app. Now, this part about customizing and creating your own program, I know as a developer that it's not really that, like there is nothing is really happening in the backend. It's just making it more intuitive for the user and make them believe that they're actually doing something super different to tailor the app for them. It might have some tweaks, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that is going to take a few seconds. However, psychologically, I think it makes you feel that you're special, that, oh wow, this is something that is actually tailoring to my needs rather than just give me a generic program. I honestly really like the stat thing. I thought that it was very well done. But what I did next, it was one of the things that I liked the most, and is that it showed me, I noticed that it also changed, that it was dark and it goes to white, because that way it's gonna get me to pay attention. And I can see so much of a difference on how my life would be in 66 days if I follow the program. I thought it was a great choice to actually change the background color, because that way I can just be, oh wow, I need to pay attention to it, something changed, instead of me being in this flow when I'm not really analyzing what's happening on the screen. I like these. These are more like know how you can activate different things. So I think it's quite well explained. These guys are really good at condensating the information that the user needs to see. I also really like their graphics. They're very anime-like, but at the same not anime-like. This squeak thing was really good. I really like it because it's a visual representation of how much better you can be. These guys do a really good job at that, especially on this one too, on the 8 core habits. I really like how you can see what the impact is going to be on me personally when I am actually doing that habit. Something as simple as drinking water can be, oh, it's going to increase this and that by 10%. Even though it's not 100% accurate, it is technically true. And it's a great way of showing the user that it will have a direct impact on your life. This one I didn't really like that much, the visual representation of the habits. I thought it was a bit of an overstretch because it was a bit difficult to understand. This part, I think that again, they just did it very good at condensating the progress that you can have on all of those 8 habits in a single screen without you having to navigate so much. Because over here you can tap differently on each one of those habits and you're gonna see how much progress it makes week by week. I like that also after you finish doing the customized plan, you can just jump straight to the questions and that you can customize how much intensity or how focused you're actually going to be on certain habits. I thought that was a great thing because you can start with everything and you can start with not all of them. I like how they're also making you commit to a certain amount of streak. And they tell you also what percentage that might be made up, but I like how that they tell you what percentage of their users choose this. Now I can tell that this is just coming very close to the paywall, and I really like that because it made me stop, and that confirmation of saying 5 things yes, it just pre-educates the user into being in a more positive mindset. I know that I read this a lot of like after a certain amount of yes, you have to make the prospect to say yes before you actually ask the question of if you're gonna sign up or not. And they make it so good on actively ask you to say yes into framing questions that are very dumb for you to say no. The text on how it's showing up on the screen is really good because it vibrates when it's typing and it makes it very engaging. This last screen was a masterpiece. It is very long. It's pretty much a condensed way of displaying you all of the benefits and all of the perks that you're gonna have by you using this app in your life. It also gives you like a 30-minute discount. I think that that's a bit, I always have problems with this because it feels like very sketchy marketing, the same way that I know probably, which is the same thing that is gonna happen, that you're very rarely going to pay the real price on these applications. They're just going to always give you like 80%, 90% offer if you don't sign up on the first try. But it's also a reality that shit sells. I have to stop thinking so much like a fucking creator and thinking more like a consumer, because all of these like there's not a coincidence that all of these applications are doing this and they're making money. They're doing all of this because it makes money. I think the things that I like the most about Live Reset onboarding, it felt a lot like a video game, and that's exactly the key target thing that they wanted to achieve with this application, because it is a gamified way of living your life. Things that they impressed me the most was the haptic feedback. It was so good when I was actually holding the phone, pressing the buttons. I realized that I haven't been doing any of this on my application and I really need to get down to it. Number two is the subtle animations. There's a lot of things that don't simply just show up on the screen. It's more that they slide from right to left, or they show up from bottom to top. They just show up in a much more styled way rather than just bluntly putting it on the screen. And that's something that I haven't been doing either, so I'm going to try implementing that. I have to say their design was for me the number one thing that I think they did very well. I just don't have that level of design. Like, I'm not a professional designer, and I think that design is really hard to get right when you have nothing to build on. And it's something that it makes you think that you're good at design where you're actually, when you're seeing a good design being done, because it's very intuitive, it's very clear once that someone else did it, but you building it from scratch is so much more challenging, or at least that's a case for me. Now we're gonna go with Liftoff. I have to say I was so annoyed when I found out about this application because it's such a in-your-face idea and it's so smart. What a great way of gamifying your lifting process, and it's pretty much a twist of a normal XR striking application. I really like what they did it, and I know that they're making money, so I just wanted to see what their onboarding process was. I was a little bit disappointed, and I'll tell you why after it, but I did think that they made a good job. One of the reasons why I was a bit disappointed on this onboarding is because it felt truly like just a copycat of Duolingo, which is okay. Like, Duolingo is a massive company, it's a massive application, and it clearly works if they're doing all of those things. But over here, it just feels like a lack of originality. However, they're making fucking 300K a month, so it's clearly working. It just feels like a bit like too much of a copycat rather than inspiration, if that makes sense. The motion of the pet is the same, it's very similar. And again, it just really feels like a copy of Duolingo. Yeah, you see, it does the same thing that Live Reset was doing before, and is that every time it will ask you for, or it will show you for some social proof, it will show you for some testimonial, something that it's making you feel that your time is being well spent. This onboarding was a very generic onboarding, I have to say. I didn't saw anything great. I like how when they made you choose the character, it animates when you pick it up and when you choose it, but it's not really wow. This slide, I noticed that this slider was a great haptic feedback, and I'm sure that they're using Swift, so it's a bit more native to the iPhone, but it felt amazing. This slider of the age also felt amazing. I have to say that made a massive difference. Like I just said on the Live Reset, the most important thing for me is going to be to implement animations and haptic feedback, which I haven't been doing at all. Yeah, this one wasn't like a wow effect. I think it's more of a great idea with an okay execution on the onboarding, rather than having an amazing idea with an amazing onboarding. This one just feels like a normal one. It doesn't feel that I'm embarking on a journey or that I'm getting into a flow. It feels like someone is filling a questionnaire that I'm needed to register for something. And that's exactly what I need. But you also want to make the user feel a little bit more special, which is particularly something that I'm not feeling. I was impressed that they managed to add so many things to the list of equipment that it's available, because that is an important and core part of the application. And as a personal trainer, I can tell you that the equipment available can change so much from gym to gym. This was also a good way of choosing what muscles do you have. I wonder how they did it actually. Yeah, as you can see, this is not really an amazing onboarding. I feel like it's a very monotonous but well done onboarding. Like, it looks pretty, it's well designed. Again, feels too much like a copycat of Duolingo, but if Duolingo is doing it, it's probably the right thing to do. The part about getting your first rank was quite nice, because it wasn't in multiple screens, it was all in one simple screen, which made it very easy for you to input and not really think so much about what you needed to do. The animation for unlocking the rank was also great. I thought that one was very well done. You see, I like how they predict how much time do you need in order for you to become the next rank by using their application, because again, they're always trying to sell you on what potential future you could have, what future self would you be if you use their application? And I think that that's something important to understand. And I need to start thinking, when I was doing this one, I need to start thinking, oh, wow, how can I make it so that the people that are using my application understand that by them reviewing their technique, by them storing their PVs, they're going to be so much stronger than if they're not using it. Like, how can I sell this? For me, there are two things that I've learned so far. Number one, I need to create something that people feel they're building it during the onboarding. So I'm going to integrate that into my camera and into the lifting stats of my app. And number two, they need to feel that they're going to be much better off by using the application, and that it's a no-brainer to get it, rather than, oh yeah, it would be a nice to have application. This is something that Live Reset was also doing. It's showing you how they're adapting the application to you, but realistically nothing in the backend is happening different. It's just making it a little bit more intuitive for you to think that the application is being completely customized. They also give you social proof, which is great. That was also something that I noticed, I forgot to mention. Both of these applications, and the third one also did it too, they all ask for the review before the onboarding finishes. Apparently, it's much more intuitive for the user to give a 5-star rating there. Before I was doing it after the user submitted or saved the first video in the application, but I realized that that can happen when the user is a little bit too cold. Since it's a lifting application, they might download the app and they are not lifting at the moment. They won't see it until they're on the workout, and they just don't really want to be disturbed by that. So I'm gonna change that from that first video save, move it towards the time that they're finishing or at least partially doing the onboarding. It shows you what your rank is even before you use the application, which is a great thing, I think. Then it tells me how I can level up and increase my rank in all of these applications. I like how they so clearly tell you that they're going to offer you 7 days for free, and the button says try for free. I think that's something that I also need to make clear. That free trial, it's a no-brainer if you want to try the application. I don't know why they're saying that they're gonna notify you when the trial ends. I'm assuming that it's because that way they can reduce churn, but it's not really something that I'm super interested right now. This one is a very standard paywall screen, so it's fine. And they all have per week prices. That's interesting. I'm gonna remember that. Yeah, you see, since I said no, they're gonna offer me a one-time offer. You see, all of these applications do this, and I have to start doing it because I think that it's a really good way of getting more users into my application. It feels a little bit sketchy, but they're all doing it because it makes money and it gets people into using their application. So I think that that's something that is at least worth trying out. The number one thing that I'm grabbing from Liftoff is the mascot. I really like how they use the pet the same way that Duolingo does it. I actually started to develop my own pet, but I'll talk about that later in the video, by using a combination of ChatGPT and Midjourney. I realized that Midjourney is not so good at generating logos from scratch, but ChatGPT is. So I grabbed the logo that Liftball had, I put it into ChatGPT to make it more into a mascot. It created a really cute and funny mascot, and Midjourney is great to adding some animation to it. So now I'm working on how I'm going to implement different iterations of that animation into the application for when the user is filling up the onboarding process, and maybe seeing how I can integrate it into the application itself. CalAI was by far the worst onboarding process of all of them. It felt very monotonous, it didn't feel really crazy, and I think that the one reason on why they're getting so much volume, it was because they're one of the first ones to implement the picture tracking, calorie tracking device. I don't know how to say it, but it's pretty much a ChatGPT wrapper into using camera to track your own calories. It's quite controversial in the fitness world. I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely a very innovative idea. The one thing that I think is the major selling point is how freaking cheap it is. It's crazy how cheap this is in comparison to MyFitnessPal or MacroFactor. I think that that's the biggest selling point that it has. It's one of those that it reinforces in me the belief that with AI and a lot of other tools that we have in 2025 that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago, you can build all of these businesses that they're now multi-million-dollar businesses into smaller versions of it, capture a small portion of that market, and bank a lot of money if you don't really have the need of expanding as much as you need to, because as you're only 1, 2, 3 people team, you can pocket all of that on you, obviously after taxes and business expenses and so on and so on. So let's get down to the CalAI onboarding. I like how they show you, this is also a very different, unique way of showing the video thing. I think I might do something like this instead of what Live Reset is doing, where they show the video inside an iPhone instead of doing it straight from a video when it happens. Because I think a live reset is a bit more inspirational, and Lift Vault, which is my app, is a bit more utility-wise, which is the same as CalAI, and it's just an endless loop, as I can see. Yeah, if I remember this correctly, it's going to be a very generic onboarding. It's just going to be, where do you found us, blah, 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 blah. Nothing that it made me say, oh, wow, this is amazing. So I'm just going to comment into some small bits that I noticed it was very good at doing, and some patterns that I noticed with the other two onboardings. That animation that happens when I enter the screen and I see the comparison between using CalAI and not using CalAI, I think it's great, because one of the most hard things in the fitness world is that one of the hardest things that you can do when you lose fat is to keep that fat off. And even if this accuracy of CalAI is good or not, it definitely at least sparks a question in your head, maybe this is the thing that I needed to keep the fat off after I lose it, because I always end up regaining it. So I think it's a good alternative, or at least a good way of showing that result. This slider is quite standard. Again, this onboarding wasn't so good. Just a very empty way of filling out the date, which I know that all of this is using this in order for creating the program that is going to be for the calories. That slider is the same one that I was using on Liftoff, and quite good. I didn't like how the speed of the goal was displayed. I felt that it was a bit weird. Again, another screen showing me how much better it's going to be sticking to my goals by using CalAI. That's good. I will say this is a very clean onboarding. It doesn't really have unnecessary animations. It's just black and white, very clean. Then it grounds me into understanding how my expectations with the app should be. Like, you don't want someone thinking that in the first 3 days they're gonna lose 5 kilos. I like that feature because I actually wish that MacroFactor had something like that. At least it shows you that they're listening to the users. This is another testimonial. You see, they all have this pattern where every few screens they show you either social proof or some validation or how much better you are by you using the application rather than not using it. Now they're gonna generate the plan. You see, all of this, I know that it's fake. Like, as a developer, I know that it's fake. It's not that it's fake, but they're not really doing anything that it couldn't be done immediately. But you having that delay as an user, it makes you feel special. Good. I will say, again, very clean onboarding. These guys, you see, I don't know if Live Reset did it first or they did it first, but over here, if you tap on those, it's also going to open some scientific research. I think that Live Reset made it way better at representing what they are, because if you know PubMed, you're going to recognize the logo underneath the application, whether at that it's just a random subtitle thing. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Paywall, quite generic. This is also the most profitable application. So that's also important to say, or at least not profitable, but at least the one that's selling the most. According to the AppStat shortcut that I have, this one is doing 2 million a month, which is by far. And I think that he's the most famous indie hacker of the three of them. So I'm pretty sure that by me not signing up, I did sign up. By me not signing or cancel, I think what I did was canceling the free trial. It offered me like an 80% discount on the yearly plan, and it cost only like $166 a month or something like that if you pay the yearly plan, which again, it makes it seem like a no-brainer. You see, that's what they do. They put this not super expensive yearly plan, very expensive monthly plan, and they make it a no-brainer for you to choose a discounted yearly plan. I think the onboarding was okay. It wasn't something life-changing or anything like that. Now, the things that I'm implementing into my application after watching these three onboardings are, like I said, specifically with the Live Reset one, because that one was my favorite. I'm adding a lot of subtle animations, glow-ups, and haptic feedback. But from the Liftoff app, I'm also stealing the mascot idea, because I thought that it was going to be much harder as a non-designer developer to have a mascot, but turns out that using AI, I was maybe underusing it, believe it or not. And I managed to do it, like I said before, with ChatGPT and Midjourney, and I created these few iterations. I'm going to show you on the screen how it's looking now, but I'm really happy, or at least this first draft that I'm developing into the new customer journey that I'm doing on the onboarding of my app. I'm going to show you the current onboarding of my application right now, and it's so shit. I realized that I don't know why I thought not doing so many screens was a great idea, when majority of the applications are running with you through a lot of different screens and showing you what the application does. My plan for now is to split it into different phases. Number one, know my power lifter. Number two, know how they're going going to build their own camera, and number 3, know how they're going to do the lifting stats on top of their video. And that's going to make the application feel a much more belonging camera for them. They're going to build their own custom camera, they're going to build their own custom lifting stats, things that is going to make it seem like the camera is completely tailored to them and what they need. I think that that's going to be the thing that is going to improve the trial conversion that I currently have on my application. I still think that the number one problem that I have is discovery. My problem is that I built this application without taking ASO into consideration. I just built this app for myself because something that I needed to use without doing marketing, and for that application to not be an ASO keyword, it makes it much harder for people to find my application. After 4 months, 5 months, right now my app is at 93 users that they have at least created accounts, don't necessarily that they sign up for a free trial. Free trials, I think I've only had less than 10, and currently I only have 3 paying users and 2 activated trials. A part of the problem is the onboarding, but a way bigger part of the problem is discovery. After I finish this onboarding, because I am really liking understanding the design, learning how to use Figma, animate these things, I'm going to tackle the problem with marketing. Maybe I'm just procrastinating what I truly need to do, but for now, I'm happy with doing this because I think that in the long term, the most important thing is doing what you actually like to, so that you can have fun while building something new. Next week, guys, I'll show you how the onboarding looks.